Okay. So welcome everyone to the joint meeting of the Cotati City Council and the successor agency to the former Cotati Community Redevelopment Agency. Thank you for being here today, and we want to start with a call to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Savage.
Here.
Councilmember Sparks.
Here.
Councilmember Ford.
Here.
Vice Mayor Harvey.
Here.
Mayor Lemus.
Here. Okay, next we have the approval of minutes and notice of waiving of reading of all the resolutions and ordinances introduced and are adopted under this agenda. And we have the regular meeting minutes from the Cotati City Council of June 9th, 2026. Is there any questions or corrections from council? No? Okay. So we'll open this up for public comment, and we'll go to Zoom first. And this is on the minutes of the June 9th meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand icon. Seeing no hands, that will end the Zoom portion of public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, if there's anyone in the room that would like to make a public comment on the meeting minutes from June 9th, please come forward. Okay, not seeing anyone, I'll bring it back to City Council.
Move to approve the minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item we have is a proclamation. And today we have we're proclaiming the month of July 2026 at Parks Make Life Better Month. And so to start, we'll start with public comment or after? Okay, we'll start with public comment, and first we'll go to Zoom and see if there's anyone with a public comment on the proclamation for today.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise hand icon. Seeing no hands on Zoom.
Okay, so in the room, if anyone wants to make a public comment on the proclamation proclaiming the month of July 2026 as Parks Make Life Better Month, go ahead, state your name and your public comment.
Thank you, Supervisor Sylvia Lemos. Cactus Pete, often bitter, sometimes sweet. So, you're having an event, I believe, in the parks coming up. It's the 33rd Annual Cotati Kids Park. And as Cactus Pete, I want to invite through you any child that reads my poetic book, The Adventures of Pedro the Purple Turtle, which you can read online for free, and draws a picture and just gives me like 2 sentences on it. They're going to get 1 or 2 beautiful cactus leaves with no needles to grow as through Luther Burbank. And I would like to be so bold as to suggest that this will go through Sylvia Lemos and perhaps the young man that runs the gardens next door. All you got to do is read the book and give me a paragraph and you get some nice cactus. And remember, there's often fungus among us, but you got to practice with cactus. So I wrote this today just now. I said, Sparks in the Parks, here in Cotati, Sonoma County, home to Cactus Pete and Luther Burbank's bounty. Our parks' most beautiful places, with both seniors and toddlers with smiles on their faces. Many have flowers for your nose and green grass for your toes, and up in the trees a bird of intention sings, a message of happiness with sincerity brings. Something sacred already coming this way. Drums are drumming, guitars are strumming, the second coming, the most beautiful of plays. Into the promised gardens of freedom and love, truly supported from beyond and above. Yes, into the promised gardens of victory, through the striking proposal attaining liberty. So listen, learn, discern, and learn, for such freedom we truly yearn. Point no fingers in blaming or fault. So ask yourself, just who is John Galt? And so I invite you all to give it a serious look, to Google your noodle to John Galt speech. I think it's appropriate for everyone listening and anyone here today listening here and on the TV. John Galt speech. The next one's pretty good is Ron Paul on Atlas Shrugged. And these are very short, but they're very, very appropriate to this moment. And so, he says, as others have said, that all evil needs to continue oppressing us is the consent of good people. So my question to everybody here and listening, are we good people? And as we are good people, then we are here on a mission with the cosmic physician and a celestial musician to requisition the universal electrician to open up these beautiful gardens amidst most beautiful, powerful spiritual pardons. So that's what I have for you today. It's a most beautiful, beautiful play, and I thank you for blessing me with your time. I say it, you hear it, it is so, it is done. Aho.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the room that would like to make a comment on the proclamation today? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into the proclamation. So the proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cotati proclaiming the month of July 2026 as Parks Make Life Better Month. Whereas Cotati's Recreation Department strives to create memorable community experiences for all. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes physical, emotional, and mental health and wellness through organized and self-directed fitness, play, and activities. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports the economic vitality of our city by providing gathering places for community members and amenities designed to attract visitors to shop, live, work, and play in our community. And whereas Parks and Recreation fosters social cohesiveness by ensuring all residents, regardless of their background or circumstances, have access to its benefits. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports social, intellectual, physical, and emotional growth in people of all ages and abilities. And whereas Parks and Recreation sustains and stewards our natural resources by protecting habitats and open space, connecting people to nature, and promoting the ecological function of parkland. Now, therefore, be it further proclaimed on this day of June 23rd, 2026, that the City Council of the City of Cotati hereby celebrates the month of July 2026 as Parks Make Life Better Month. So we want to invite Ashley Wilson and anyone else that you want to call up to receive it.
I don't think they want to say anything. I speak for everybody else. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you so much for having us up here today. In the 10 years that I've been here, this is the first time that we are doing a proclamation for Parks Make Life Better Month, and it is the busiest time of year, which is for us, which is why we've not had it happen before, but I'm so happy that we can do it this year and proud of everything that we have been able to accomplish. We are a small department. We have 2 full-time staff and 6 part-time staff that work seasonally. And what we can do with that amount of time, I'm really proud of the amount of things that we can accomplish. You'll hear it in Damien's report later, but I had said that there was over 80 kids in our camp in our 3 camps this week, but we actually have 108. So we're serving over 100 kids weekly right now between the camps that we're offering. And some other things that we have ongoing this summer that are just available for people are, we have a free lunch program for any child 18 and under, Monday through Friday. We have senior exercise classes year-round, 5 days a week. We have 3 free senior program classes through the JC partnership that are available year-round. And any age, they're targeted to seniors, but any age can attend. We manage all of the city's park permits for from small birthday parties to large festivals like the Music Fest that happened last weekend. We manage facility rentals of everything at the Ray Miller Community Center, the Cotati Room, and the Cotati Vets Building, and also available is the train depot. We manage the work together with the people at the farm, so we work with Sandy Loam and agriculture over there to manage all the farm workshops and the open ranch days and the special events, and hopefully continue to even grow more programming over there. I mean, we have the farm box, and all of that is stuff that we have built in the time that we've been here. We're working in the last few years more so on park improvements, and you'll see that when we kind of started that with Cotati Park, and then now Sunflower Park and Putnam Park, and I have a feeling that we're not going to stop because it has been such a welcome change to the community. And something else that I'm proud of is that we have never and will never turn down a child to a program because they can't afford it. And so we have a scholarship program. Even when it's empty, we still make it so that families can attend if they need to, based on, or we will do payment plans or find scholarship funding or work with them to make it work. And so that's something that I am really proud of. And we started this from the ground up 10 years ago, and to where we are now, I'm just thinking of other small communities. And when you actually look at all the things that we make work when our little team, it's just something that I think is really great. And we're still trying to add more, but I think that we're trying to do something for everyone, and I really hope that the community sees the value in that as well. And I just want to thank you for everything.
Thank you. And we'd like to take a picture
Yes,
with you and your
please.
staff if
Yes.
possible. Thank you.
Oh, and I have my camp director, a camp staff, and our coordinator here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, hug?
Thank you. Parks are the best. They really are. Okay, so the next item we have is agenda review. And I think there's some changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, Council, I'm just suggesting that tonight we move up items 9A and 9B. 9A is the EIFD item, and B is the CEA MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. 9A, we have some people here to help present tonight, so that's why the suggestion to move it up. And then the CEA, we have just as in terms of some following actions on the budget adoption, we have a salary schedule on the consent calendar, so if we do the MOU before then, this can be clear which salary schedule is actually the one being adopted tonight. So that's why we're suggesting moving those two up after this, before citizens' business.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council on that? Okay, so I'll open it up to public comment. And let's go to in the room. Anyone in the room have any public comment on agenda review, which is moving the two items forward? Nobody, so we'll go online. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment on this item. Seeing no hands, that will end public comment.
Okay, so we talked to the council and we took public comment, so we'll move forward with those. So we'll start with item 9A first. And the 9A on the agenda is a resolution of intention to form an enhanced infrastructure financing district in EIFD, establish a Cotati EIFD Public Finance Authority. And we have a presentation on that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So for the presentation tonight, we have Richard Kerrigan with Cosmont here tonight to start off the presentation. And also his partner Joe is online, who will, I think, finish up the presentation. Yep. And then I have some additional comments after the presentation's over, and then we'll turn it over to the council for questions. Thanks.
Mayor, council member, good evening. Thank you for taking this presentation. Richard Kerrigan with Cosmont Companies. Can you hear me okay? I'm a little tall. So next slide, please. So in terms of the background of this agenda item, we did evaluate 5 different special purpose financing districts to help fund infrastructure improvements within the city of Cotati that supported around new development. And one of our key findings is we did recommend the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District as the most relevant and useful given the nature of the improvements and types of infrastructure that also include affordable housing as the most relevant tool. We did some preliminary financial analysis and that estimate came to $25 million in present value term, and that assumes a dollar match with the county, which we'll get into in a little bit further detail. But that is it's $25 million in today's dollars. In terms of the overall sort of participation, we did look at the city and return on investment analysis, and that was favorable. With an enhanced infrastructure finance district, there is an opportunity to partner with the county. That does enhance the actual value of revenue that you can generate and use for public improvements within the city that the city would not otherwise get. So that enhances the overall financial feasibility. In addition to why enhanced infrastructure financing districts are valuable, it also gives you an opportunity to attract other sources of funding, in particular federal and state grants. There is some provisions in California, for example, housing grants, that you do get extra points and higher scoring to attract new grants if you have an enhanced infrastructure financing district in place. So we see that as a value add of actually attracting other sources of funding for infrastructure improvements. And some of the sort of key items for discussion tonight is around the resolution of intent, if that is where the City Council wants to move forward with, and also if to continue an outreach effort with the County of Sonoma to register their interest in potentially partnering with the city in this initiative. So next slide. So in terms of just the overall concept of enhanced infrastructure finance district, the important thing to take away as well, it's not a new tax. The tax within the city does not change for the residents or the business owners within the district. It's typically a long-term financing solution. Once it's formed, there's about 50 years typically that the assessed value will grow, and it's subject to new development. So any new development that happens within the district increases the assessed value, and there's a portion of that new growth that's captured and put towards the Enhanced Infrastructure Finance Fund, and the rest of the portion that does not go to the EFT goes back to the general fund. And once the formation of the district ends, the ongoing revenues will go back to the general fund. So that's the basic concept of the Enhanced Infrastructure Finance District. Next slide. Just in terms of the EIFD fundamentals, it's typically a long-term financing tool which allows revenues to grow. It's typically about 5 years after the formation. There's typically about enough revenues to issue debt, a bond, and the legislation states that once the bond is issued, it's a 45-year period before the district actually ceases. So we do our analysis around 50 years, which is a typical sort of period. In terms of the overall governance structure, once through the formation process, a public finance authority will be formed, which is a new entity. It will be governed by, for example, if you partner with the county, it'll be 3 elected officials, potentially 2 city council members, 1 from the County Board of Supervisors, and then each city and county then get to nominate 2 representatives from the public. So there'll be 5 members on the board that would ultimately govern how the funds are used. And one of the key documents within the PFA is an infrastructure finance plan. And think of that like a business plan for how the money will be used, the types of projects that would be eligible, and a number of elements that govern the use of the funds over that district period. In terms of the formation process and to get it approved, there's no voter approval, but there is an opportunity for people within the district to protest. And there is a series of notices that goes out to members of the public and residents and business owners within the district. And we'll go through some of the details of some of the hearings that happen throughout the formation process. But there is an opportunity to protest, to actually critique or push back on the actual formation of the EIFD. And in terms of the eligible projects, it's physical infrastructure, the useful life of 15 years. The EIFD legislation is typically quite broad in terms of how it's used, in terms of the types of projects, but it also includes funding maintenance of infrastructure. So next slide, please. So this is just an overview of the partial list that's included in the legislation. It's a long list and ever increasing, but when we talk about infrastructure, it's things like storm and flood public facilities, roadway improvements, parks, public facilities like library, childcare facilities, affordable housing, and other critical infrastructure projects. So next slide. So in terms of why do public agencies go forward with financing districts like an enhanced infrastructure financing district? Well, typically there has to be a return on investment that makes sense for cities and counties to partner, and that's what we call the net fiscal benefit. So your revenues that you generate are actually higher than the expenses that you over the period. And we have done some analysis to justify that, and both the city and county would do similar analysis to justify that there is a positive ROI. There's also job creation with the catalyzing new projects in terms of new development and housing production, and it also solves a critical infrastructure need to actually make those developments happen. And the second point is also about the ability to attract other funds. We mentioned in the introduction that it is a great leverage tool for other federal and state funds, and if there is a partnership with the county, we think of it like a retirement fund. If the city puts forward a portion and the county matches that, that's new money that the city typically wouldn't have for these types of projects. They would typically be funded through the general fund. So next slide. So just in terms of what's happening in the rest of the state, Cosmon Company is actually involved in about the formation of about 22 of these districts so far, up and down the state. And in terms of the different types of partnerships, it's a mixture between cities going alone and the city and county is partnering, but there's a diverse kind of pattern in that regard, and the types, they're all different shapes and sizes and all used for different types of infrastructure improvements. In the County of Sonoma in particular, there's a EIFD partnership with Santa Rosa with the city and the county, and there's also other EIFDs in the works in the County of Sonoma right now, West County being one, and also others with the City of Sonoma and the County of Sonoma and Sebastopol potentially as well. So there's a long track record so far of these being formed, and they're continuing to be developed in the County of Sonoma. Next slide. So in terms of what is included in the overall district, just in terms of orientation, the green colour represents the actual parcels that are included in the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, and these are parcels that have an opportunity to be redeveloped and enhanced, and they typically cover the Gravenstein Corridor and the downtown Cotati Depot priority development areas. Overall, in terms of acreage, it's about 162 acres, which represents 13.5% of the city's total acreage. And in terms of existing assessed value today, that represents about $220 million, which is about 14% of the city-wide assessed value. And Cosmon's perspective, we like those numbers in terms of overall scale. And in terms of what that means in terms of the county, it's about 0.2% of the county-wide assessed value. We did include in this kind of more kind of orangey red an opportunity that's not included in this analysis is a county unincorporated area of about 45 acres, and there's potential there for inclusion subject to further kind of discussions with the county if they do become a partner in this process. Next slide, please. So what sort of improvements have we identified? This is an initial list in terms of the types of infrastructure, and this is just the draft. This can obviously be refined through the formation process, but we have here water and sewer, we have roadway improvements, park improvements, downtown parking, as well as potentially Alder Avenue in the unincorporated area that we just mentioned. So diverse types of infrastructure that's critical to the city of Cotati. Next slide, please. So overall, so the assessed value that grows over time, that comes from new development. So the projects listed here are what we've used in the analysis, and those projects have been already approved, but they have not been built, so that's where the new value is going to grow over time. And we have streamlined this, or we've analysed this over the next 10 years in a kind of pro rata basis, so we haven't assumed it all happens in one go, but just kind of outlined that sort of development projection over the next 10 years on on products that we know of today. Next slide, please. So what we do is with that overall development potential with market data, then we, for the different types of products, so residential, for sale or rental, and commercial retail, we assess a value then of how that would look in terms of assessed value factor, and that's what we get, 256 million in total value, and it's a portion of that value then that gets assigned to the Enhanced Infrastructure Finance District. So next slide. I think Joe, if he's online, is going to take it from here. I'm not sure how that works.
Richard, yes, thank you. And good evening, Mayor Lemus and members of the City Council. So what we do is we take the projections that my colleague Richard just walked through as far as new units of residential, new non-residential square footage. We project that out over time in terms of assessed value. And then very importantly, we have to run it through the filter of how does that new value generate property tax revenue? We oftentimes have to clarify for our public meetings that when you pay $1 of property tax within Cotati, most of that does not go to the city of Cotati. Obviously, this council understands that. We often find that members of the public, that it's not obvious for them. We mention that because one of the significant portions of this value proposition for a city is if you are able to achieve a partnership with another taxing entity, such as the County of Sonoma. What it is, in effect, doing is not only leveraging a piece of your piece of the pie, but receiving a piece of the pie from another entity, such as the county, that would otherwise be spent elsewhere within the county. That's that retirement account analogy that my colleague Richard was speaking about. It's that equivalent of an employer matching you as an employee, setting aside some piece of your paycheck, in this case, your property tax paycheck, with a match. So that's part of the key benefit, particularly for cities such as Cotati that do not receive a large piece of the property tax pie within your community. We can go to the next slide, please. Very importantly, this county is one of 9 counties across the state that have adopted some form of financing district participation policy, sort of a target to aim at if you're a city seeking partnership with the county. This is the policy that guided the discussions in Santa Rosa, that currently is guiding discussions in Sebastopol and a couple of other jurisdictions within this county. We've been closely involved at Cosmont with all 9 of the county policies across the state. We view this policy quite favorably. We find these criteria to be quite reasonable and intuitive, that the county would only be a partner to the city and not allocate more than the local city. The county would not allocate all or 100% of its share. The county would expect that positive net fiscal impact that Richard was speaking about to its general fund, just like we would expect the city to only do this if there is a positive net impact to your general fund. And then more qualitatively, that third criterion on board priorities, just the priorities that the Board of Supervisors has elevated. We think with the potential financing district proposal we're talking about today, that we are checking the boxes, but those would be subject to future discussion, potential negotiation with county staff and elected officials if the City Council would like to go down that path. The following page 14 goes one level deeper into the analysis. What we essentially do is based on those development projections and running it through those filters of how much of the property tax the city gets, how much the county gets. We look at different scenarios of potential partnership. None of this would be decided by any action tonight. This would be a future step where you are drafting that business plan, that so-called infrastructure financing plan that my colleague discussed. The City Council would choose, if we do this thing at all, what piece of our future property tax paycheck might we be willing to set aside? And what does it get us in terms of dollars? The range evaluated is based on a balance between, on one side, are we generating enough money to make the thing worth doing? Generating enough dollars to actually fund meaningful projects. While on the other end of the spectrum, not overburdening the general fund, not allocating too many dollars that would otherwise be unrestricted general fund property tax dollars, so that we're not endangering the city's ability to provide services on an ongoing basis well into the future. So we think where it could make sense on a general fund basis is this somewhere in this range of 25% to 50% of the city's share and a county match. We think it would be more likely to receive a dollar match, but a percentage match could also be conceivable, particularly if we look at areas outside of the city limits that were colored in that orange-red color that my colleague was talking about. But the punchline is within 5 years, between maybe $1 million and $2.5 million, within 10 years, within $4 million and $8 million, and then the funding capacity increases over time as assessed value increases. So we typically find in the earliest years, it's not the fastest money. It just isn't. This isn't a tool that you form and in the immediate fiscal year you can issue some bond for some large amount of money. That's actually not the way these tools work. They are actually more effective, 5, 10 plus years down the line. These are long-term investment tools. That's just their nature. So the bad side of it is it's slower money. I guess the positive side of that coin is you're not getting beyond your skis as a city. You make projections, as we've done, based on best available data, but that's not a pre-commitment of money. You're not locked into that. In other words, if the development projections don't come true as we've outlined them, it's not like the city is somehow on the hook to pay some bills. That is not how these work. You need to have the dollars materialize before you can spend them. On the following slide, we just talk a bit more about those grants that my colleague was talking about. Again, it's a revenue stream that can be bonded against. That's great. But we would say the tool is not being used to its maximum efficacy if it's not also being used to attract other money, especially state grants. Following slide just goes into a bit more detail. The key updates since the last time City Manager Obid, I believe, presented an update to City Council was this whole return on investment analysis. So from a general fund perspective, does it make sense? Are you better off for doing it than you would be without doing it, right? Because if that was not the case, we could not imagine that this tool would be even entertained. But fortunately, what the analysis is yielding is that there is a positive return on investment. A number of different ways. Yes, we can look at housing production, we can look at job creation and the wages associated with those jobs. Those have all been evaluated quantitatively. But to be honest, we probably spend most of the time just on a dollars and cents basis. Is this a good use of public money? Is there a positive return for the city general fund? And if the county is going to be your partner, is there a positive benefit for them? And so we are seeing that. And that's what we would, seek to discuss further with the county if the council desired to move further. Page 17, I won't belabor it. We just like to let the public know that it's here. Just when we say positive general fund impact, my colleague Richard walked through that. We're saying net new revenues from new development, but then very importantly, we have to carve out what is this allocation of future property tax that you will be allocating to this financing district instead of the general fund. We need to net that out. And then we need to net out new expenditures because new development does not only bring new revenues, it also brings new expenditures. So for a true bottom line net impact, we have to net out those things. And only if that bottom line impact is positive are we seeing cities and counties go down this path. So this is just a snapshot. The next level deeper is an appendix to the staff report. A much longer PDF with all of the assumptions that would continue to remain very publicly available if this process were to move forward. That's actually a good segue to the following slide. My colleague mentioned that there are a series of public meetings and hearings if this financing district were to move forward. And it is quite deliberately in the state, in the statute, a very public and transparent process. That body, that public financing authority, directs the preparation of the business plan, that infrastructure financing plan. And it is that plan that is required to be vetted over a series of required public meetings and hearings that are each duly noticed by mail, by newspaper, by website. And it has to be independently approved by this hybrid public financing authority that we discussed, independently approved by the city council. If the county is a partner to the city, it must be independently approved by the county board of supervisors. And there's, at that last public hearing in letter I, that opportunity that my colleague mentioned where residents and property owners within the boundary, they can protest. So even if those other agencies, the city, the county, and the PFA all approved it, if the residents and the property owners didn't like it and they protested really any part of it, the business plan, the concept, the process by which the district was formed. Any of that can be protested, and it's sort of the final of the checks and balances. And the reality is we don't typically see protests as soon as we make it very clear that this is not a new tax and that where the dollars go are public community amenities, but it is still there as an opportunity for the community to weigh in. So that is really the conclusion of our slides. Richard and I will of course remain available to assist with questions. I do believe the city manager was going to comment a bit on some potential next steps and alternatives available to the council, but I thank you for the time.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Richard, so just to kind of wrap up and I guess go back to our earlier conversations with the County of Sonoma. So the feedback that we've gotten from them so far is the projects they're looking for, they feel should catalyze or accelerate development, such there's a clear nexus to increase property values. There was some conversation about the fiscal impact report, and as was mentioned, the county is not going to contribute more than the percent by policy than the city contributes. And the Santa Rosa EFID, which is the only currently operational EFID in Sonoma County, in that case, I believe it was 50% city, 25% county, as just an example, but that's not necessarily where we will end up. That's just the example that's out there right now. They did mention that they weren't sure yet if they would want a third-party review of the fiscal impact report that you see in the packet tonight. They also mentioned that the county process is just slower. So you saw some timelines there. That doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to necessarily hit all those dates. So before you tonight is this resolution of intent to form, and also one of the main things it would do is it would form a public financing authority on paper. So it would just form this PFA body on paper. And the goal of that resolution is two things. One is to set the composition of the PFA. As you heard earlier, there's different varieties of ways that you can establish the composition of the PFA, but it's to our benefit that we have two council members and a citizen, and in this case, in this structure that we're proposing tonight, the county, if they join, they would have a single supervisor and a single member. So we would have, their local projects, their city projects that we're talking about that provide not only city benefit, but hopefully, countywide sort of regional benefit in many cases. But we would have the majority of the say, you could say, on that board. So one of the goals of forming it is to set the PFA composition now, so it's clear what we want to do, and then also provide a clear sort of statement of intent to the county that the council has taken some, concrete action to move this forward. It's more than just a sort of amorphous sort of maybe we want to do this, maybe we don't. It's a clear statement to the county that the city's interested in partnering with the county on this. So that would allow us to approach the county, staff to approach the county, and just say that, hey, our city council is very interested in this, and this is what we're proposing, and we want to get some clear signals back from the county that they want to partner with us. So oftentimes, you saw there's a lot of different steps that have to come after this to actually form an EIFD. And, I would say that we're not proposing any of that tonight. It would just literally be the PFA on paper, wait for the county's commitment, and then we would start on the subsequent steps. And so that's the time frame that would follow once we get a county commitment. The schedule in the PowerPoint sort of assumes the county commits pretty quickly, and then we just move forward on the process. I'd say that's probably less likely than likely to happen, so it's probably going to be delayed somewhat, but you can see the general steps. We're also, tonight, just even before you actually consider the resolution, we're just looking for any feedback or questions on the fiscal analysis. I will say one thing that became clear for staff at least, when we're looking at the fiscal analysis is the community facilities district that we have established. it became very clear in the analysis that that's a very important piece for development. Because the fiscal analysis sort of real basically is, here's, if you take all the projects in our development pipeline and you assume that they build in a uniform pace over the next 10 years, here's all the new revenue, both direct and indirect revenue that those projects generate. And also here's all the new expenses the city, the city has to absorb to support that development. And it's very clear that with the CFD, it's pivotal in terms of making sure that we stay net positive in our revenue. Also, you saw the draft boundary map. So generally, I'd say what those were, for the most part, is they were the priority development areas. So the 116 corridor area, the downtown area. More specifically, the parcels that are highlighted are almost exclusively DSP parcels, so downtown specific plan parcels. There's a couple exceptions, but that's almost, which is also the PDA area. And then there's the train depot PDA, which is in there, but you'll also notice that there's a couple parcels down East Cotati Avenue, which is our TOC parcels that were recently brought into that. So I would say it's like PDA plus, but basically PDA was the initial guidance to set the boundary of the areas with a couple adjustments for like TOC and downtown specific plan, that sort of thing. The area outside in the rust-colored orange, that is in the county right now. The thinking was just for conversation and to understand where the council is or what they think about this idea, is that this area in our general plan, or not the entire area, but much of the area is pre-zoned in our general plan. It's a likely future annexation area. We have infrastructure there. Alder, particularly, is entirely in the county right now. But then Hellman is shared. It's a shared roadway between the city and the county. And if the city's interested, we could approach the county and see if they have any interest in that. Because we could potentially share resources just the same way we'd share resources on the projects within the city limits. We could share potentially resources to improve that area. And the details, if the city council is interested in the concept, the details could be flushed out in terms of annexation and what sort of conditions we would want on annexation, when we'd turn that on in terms of the EFID, because it doesn't necessarily, as I understand it, doesn't necessarily have to be turned on the same time the rest of the EIFD gets established. And then finally, you saw the list of general infrastructure projects. That's just a really broad, but it gives you an idea. You'll notice, and you noticed probably one of the earlier slides, that maintenance could be paid for with EIFDs, but neither the county, I'm sure the county of Sonoma would have no interest in that. I also don't think that's probably a good use of tax increment money. It'd be better to, in my opinion, better to use it to try to accelerate or catalyze projects that will both bring new development, new housing, new services, new jobs into the city, rather than like pay for maintenance, for example. So that's why they're very focused on that type of infrastructure projects. But if down the line, if the county does decide to partner with us, that's something that would be flushed out in more detail, as was mentioned in the presentation. And I will, I guess I will just say one last thing, is that one of the things that the County of Sonoma is working on right now, what they have been working on is this West County EIFD, but it's a county-only district currently. And it's fairly advanced. I think maybe in early August, they're coming back to the Board of Supervisors. And so the hope is that if the council is interested in moving to the next step on this, that we could convey that to the county and sort of put that into the mix as they start talking, as they finish up their West County EIFD conversation, and also start having more meetings with them and really get some concrete direction and plans with going with them. And with that, I'll just leave it there for now. But of course, we're all here for any questions the council might have.
Okay, so council, questions from council? Councilmember Ford?
I just have one little one left. Damien answered my others. The Lund Hill Lane parcels were included in the analysis, but they're not green on the map, I think. Is that right? Are they in the district or not?
They are not in the district, but they're future development in the pipeline in terms of understanding general fund revenue overall and service costs. So they're part of the fiscal analysis, but they're not part of the district
I
revenue.
see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Sparks?
Thank you. I had several questions. First of all, I'd just like a little bit of understanding of what exactly the IFP will include. Will it include like a plan for issuing bonds or a more detailed project list, or just how much detail is the IFP going to get into, and what will it look like?
Joe, do you want to go or do you want me?
Sure, happy to weigh in. Richard, please do feel free to add. The law requires that you identify timing, cost, and location of the things you want to pay for, and the revenue projections to meet those needs. There's not a requirement in the law that those things need to be identified with maximum specificity across the state. For the 38 or so of these that have been formed, there's a range in specificity. It would be up to the council how specific you get versus how broad, flexible, enabling you would like this plan to be. But what the law requires is a set of revenue projections, an analysis of the corresponding impact of those projections on the general funds of any participating taxing entity, such as the city and the county, and a list, again, with some degree of specificity on what you want to pay for. There are then a series of more technical things like a map and a legal description prepared by a licensed surveyor, and some qualitative things like general objectives, goals of the district, how it seeks to provide a regional and community-wide impact versus just a parcel-specific or project-specific impact.
Thank you. Just a follow-up. Can you other informational sessions that I've attended about EIFDs have talked about the ability to issue bonds to raise funds for the district, and I'd just like to. I don't understand how that works in terms of. Does that come back to the governing bodies, the council and the county, for approval, or is that something that the PFA has authority to make decisions about later on down the road?
Yeah, I mean, that's decided by the PFA in terms of once there's sufficient revenues that's been generated, they based on actuals that have been generated, you can get that in terms of an underwriter to assess what the overall financing could be sized to actually issue debt, but it's not. You don't have to decide that ahead of time. It's only when there's sufficient revenues to bond, but it's governed by the PFA. And the repayment of that debt is solely through the EIFD. It doesn't come back to the general fund in the city. So it's exclusive in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Another question I had was that the net revenue or the net fiscal impact margins were pretty small compared to the total dollar amounts that we were dealing with, which makes me think that it's pretty heavily dependent on the modeling that was done, whether that number comes out, how positive that number comes out. So I just had a question of what is the magnitude of any kind of administrative overhead for running the PFA, and is there any chance that there could be, is all that overhead accounted for in these projections?
I'll say yes, it is, but Joe might, do you want to give us some more details, Joe?
Agreed. It is accounted for in the grand scheme of financing district types in California law. This tends to be one of the lighter lifts administratively. The requirement in the law is that this body, the Public Financing Authority, meet once annually. It can choose to meet more frequently, but the requirement is once annually, and the body would at that time consider an annual report, basically a progress report, how are actuals looking compared to projections, what has been done in the previous year, and how that measures to the original infrastructure financing plan. When Cosmont is asked to assist staff with the administration of these districts, the Cosmont budget would be something like $5,000 or $10,000 on an annual basis. Sometimes staff will do it on their own without a consultant, which is also great. That's the general magnitude of these things, and it has been incorporated into the analysis.
Great, thank you. And then one more question. My very last one is just about the decision we're making tonight. I know that we're not being asked to weigh in on all these details yet, just to signal our intention to go forward. But the way this type of thing works, if we do decide to move forward tonight, probably at some point, consultants are going to be working on things and spending money to prepare for future decisions we're going to have to make. So is there a way that we could structure the decision tonight so that the city council would maybe have another bite at the apple once we have a little bit more of a clear idea of what the county is willing to do? Because as city manager Obid put it, like anyway, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I was about to say, but we don't know exactly what this is going to look like yet. And you said it's more than just we might or we might not want to do this. We're really seriously interested, but I don't know if we want or don't want to do it yet because we don't know what the details of the arrangement would be. So before we get into that fully committing to spending all that phase 3 money, is there a way that we can come back with a little more detail about what how the county is willing to participate?
Yeah, so the normal course of, so like just say like if we just went on a normal schedule of things, we would we would wait for the county to provide a commitment, and so that commitment is, I think in my mind at least that's a willingness to. So we've created the PFA. Let's say we approve this tonight. We've created the PFA on paper. I think the first thing that the county would do as a concrete commitment would be to would be like agendizing and starting to appoint members to the PFA, like we would as well. And at that point, I mean, we could revisit it in that step, or we could have we could just have like we did last time when I gave a progress report after phase 1 and 2 were done. We could have an interim just update to council on where things are. But the first thing that would have to happen is everyone appoints members to the board, and then and that's when like the infrastructure financing plan would probably start kicking off in terms of expenditures, like consultant expenditures. Finalizing the district map would be another thing that would have to happen. We'd have to decide what level of tax contribution we want to contribute. The fiscal analysis, as you saw, is a 50% city contribution. That may or may not be what the council ultimately wants to do. But I think the infrastructure financing plan and that final fiscal analysis will go hand in hand, because you'll be able to see much more clearly based on the cost of the infrastructure and the schedule of the infrastructure that we intend to build with this district tool will be based on the amount of revenue that we can get, and the amount of revenue we can get depends on how much we contribute. So, you know what I mean? So they're connected to each other. So how much we contribute is connected to what we decide to build on what schedule. So the final sort of infrastructure financing plan will go hand in hand with the final fiscal analysis. So I'm just saying that those are the next, there'll be several more steps to kind of work through the final map, what the final boundary map is, which will then kind of go hand in hand with the final fiscal analysis, infrastructure financing plan. But the very first thing we're going to be doing is appointing people, I think, to that public finance authority. So we could provide I guess it's a very long explanation to say, we could have a conversation about sort of, besides just the appointments, more globally, what else is going on. If you want to revisit the map or the fiscal analysis, which probably wouldn't have changed too much at that point from what you're seeing tonight. Or we could do we could always come back to council with a sort of an interim progress update too, as conversations continue with the county. So it's up to the council.
Just a follow-up question. I mean, I think one of the biggest question marks is the the fiscal analysis looks very different depending on how much the city and the county are respectively contributing. So would that percentage be sort of determined early in this process or late in this process, or when would we know? Because that'll affect.
Well, I think when we start talking with the county and we start getting into more serious conversations about it, one of the earlier things that they signaled to us was, are they going to take our fiscal analysis and run with it, or are they going to have their own done? So, so we'll, even before they decide to like join the PFA, I think they're, well, I know that they're going to look at the fiscal side of this and make sure they feel comfortable with a range of contributions. So, so that is something that I think even by the time we get to the member appointments, we'll probably have a much better sense for where the county is in terms of their level of comfort with contribution. And then it's up to the council, obviously, on what level of contribution the city's comfortable with. So, I mean, so that could be something that we know before that we will know. I don't know how far in advance, but we will know before we get to member appointments, because the county's not going to appoint anyone until they feel comfortable with it, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Vice Mayor Harvey.
Thank you. A lot of my thoughts were along the same lines as Councilmember Sparks. It's sort of hard without seeing the plan to kind of know what it is that we're dealing with and knowing really what the county is going to do, because that will be kind of important to know whether or not this is looking good or maybe just, as was pointed out, kind of a little borderline there. So I'd be interested in those aspects also. And then my question is on the authority, the public authority, with the one that they have with Santa Rosa, do the supervisors only have one supervisor on that authority? It's unusual for the county to not have an equal number of people. That's why I'm asking.
I can comment on that.
Yeah, I think that's the
Do you want to comment, Joe?
Sure, happy to. That across the state, I agree, Vice Mayor. Across the state, this county has been unique in its treatment of Santa Rosa's. They elected to go with 7 instead of 5, where they have, bear with me, they have 2 members of the city council, 2 members of the county board of supervisors, a member of the public appointed by the city council, a member of the public appointed by the county board of supervisors, and a public member jointly appointed by the city and the county. So the 38, that's the only one that looks like that. We do believe part of that is the first one that the county has done. We don't know whether that's going to be the structure that they try to replicate. Their policy does not speak to that aspect, and we would classify that as certainly an item for discussion. I don't know, dare I say negotiation, if the conversations continue.
Well, just, having sat on multiple joint powers with the county, that does not surprise me what you just stated, because that is really more par for the course for how the county of Sonoma works. So that's why I was curious when you had stated 2 council members and 1 supervisor, because that didn't seem to be consistent with any of the rest of the JPAs that we have within the county, and we have quite a few. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions?
My question was similar to Councilmember Harvey's about how the decisions are made and how the governance is around that. Is it just a simple majority of the board then, or the membership, to make a decision on how money is spent?
Joe, do you want to take that?
Sure, that is correct, council member. If the business plan that again was independently approved by the city council and independently approved by the county board of supervisors, and it's then at some point in the future just a matter of dispersing the funds from the account, it would only require a simple majority of the board members present.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, could I ask some follow-ups?
Sure.
Just to make sure I'm clear, the impact analysis that looked sort of, close to the edge in terms of, expected new revenues versus expected new expenses, that's just the impact on the general fund. That's not the funds in the EIFD, correct?
Well, the fiscal impact is looking at the general fund.
Right.
And the revenues that you saw in terms of what's generated for the EIFD is what that portion, it's either 25% or 50% with a county match. That's what the EIFD generates. So
Right.
they're separate.
Right. So that, the one that looked like, marginal, like close, expenses could slightly outstrip, revenues in some years. But that's just the general fund portion, not the 50% plus whatever the county percentage is that's sent to the EIFD.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I agree with some of the comments that were made. I have a question about, I'm also concerned about overburdening the general fund. And you had mentioned 25 to 50% contribution by cities and then less for the counties. Has there been other cities and state that tend with the lower amount, 25%, and do they have impact? Do they still see positive revenue streams?
Joe, can you want to take that one?
Sure. We've seen, of the 38, we've seen one lower than 25, and that is a very unique partnership between the County of San Joaquin and the cities of Stockton, Lathrop, and Manteca. And it's very unique because it's all about a flood control project that sort of protects all of those agencies. And it's like less than 10% that's required because you've got 4 agencies at the table. Absent that one, we see a range between 25% and 100%. We're definitely not suggesting 100% here. The agencies that have gone 100% have been those where they were very likely catalyzing something like a hotel or some big box retail where the transient occupancy tax or the sales tax would far more than compensate for any property tax allocation. We have not assumed any hotel. We think one is possible, but we have not assumed any of that in order to err on the side of being more conservative. And so with assumptions like that, we'd kind of put 25% as your floor for this city. And in some of the other analyses we do, when we go less than 25%, we get to a point where it's like, gee, this really isn't worth doing for the number of dollars that you're going to generate. Can't really do much with the tool, not worth the hassle of doing, to be very honest.
Okay, thank you. A follow-up question?
Yeah, just one, I'm sorry. If in the future, can the infrastructure financing plan be modified since this thing lives for 45 years? And if so, how does that work? Can it go back to the governing bodies for modification?
Yeah. Joe, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I'll start. 2 types of modifications, easy ones and hard ones. The easy ones, the PFA can do on its own. The harder ones have to go back to the City Council, County Board of Supervisors, and the PFA. What constitutes an easy one is if you're just updating revenue projections because you've got better information. If you are perhaps cleaning up the language, so not adding a brand new project to the list, but maybe adding more specificity about a particular project to be funded. Or if you are going to reduce an allocation, dollar amount or percentage. That is an easier type of modification that the PFA could do on its own. A more difficult type of modification that would require the more intense process, that would be if you're changing the boundary, if you are adding a brand new project to be funded that wasn't originally contemplated at all, or if you were going to increase the allocation, percentage or dollar amount by any of the participating entities. Any of those 3 types of changes would be the more intense amendment, but there's the specific guidance in the law on the amendment process for each of those.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, Susan, did you have
Mayor,
another?
could I ask a follow-up?
Yes, please. Mhm.
Yeah, something you said that by a vote of the authority, a majority of vote, and I believe you said of those present. Did I understand that correctly?
Correct, Vice Mayor. Sort of a Brown Act rules, the quorum is 3 of 5, and any vote would be a majority of those present.
Okay, so you have not, the reason that I'm asking, in a lot of the things that we do with the county, there's all of these majorities, supermajorities, and different things like that. And oftentimes it is difficult to get the supervisors to some of these meetings. And I just wasn't sure whether there would be language in there that so the council members were there and your public people were there, but none of the supervisors were there. And could it still move forward?
And thank you, Vice Mayor. So as far as the EIFD law is concerned, it's what I just laid out. So you could move forward
Okay.
without the county members present, but it is conceivable that we would take bylaws to govern this new entity that gets stood up. And if the city, county, or both desire to establish some bylaws that sort of get more restrictive than the state law and require, for example, that you can't make a decision unless you had 1 or 2 county folks present, that is an option that could be accommodated through the bylaws. But this speaks to exactly why we like to keep these things tighter versus larger.
Right.
Because certainly with the counties, it just gets hard to get people to meetings, as was stated.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll open up to public comment. So we'll start in the room. Is there anyone in the room that would like to make public comment on this EIFD? Okay, no, then we'll go to online.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a comment on this item. Seeing no hands, Mayor Lemus, that will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. So we'll bring it back to council for any additional comments anyone has, or? Go ahead.
Well, I'll say I support moving forward at this stage in the timeline that's laid out. We do get another sort of opportunity to weigh in when the actual plan comes back before us, and both the supervisors and the city council have to approve that for anything to move forward. So that feels to me like enough opportunity for us to weigh in. I mean, I'm happy to hear interim reports and things as the process is going, but I'm comfortable moving forward with it. As proposed, I like sticking with a 50% contribution because it feels to me like we've got enough of a buffer in the fiscal analysis on the impact on our general fund from all this development. And if we go less than 50%, I don't think the county's going to go anywhere near even the 33% that we're envisioning. So I would stick with the 50%.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, Councilmember.
I would very much, I'm supportive of moving forward, but I would like to have more details before we start paying consultants to work on the more detailed plan. I'd just like to get a more substantial report at the point when we come back to appoint the members, and also have the option to have a discussion then about, okay, are we ready to start committing funding towards this? Because that phase 3 could, if Rohnert Park doesn't decide to participate, it could be pretty costly to do phase 3 if we ultimately decide not to move forward, which I have every intention to see it through if it all works out, but it is a big commitment of funding. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay. And I also like the idea of unlocking, more development with the EIFD, with more revenue that comes in. So I'm also in support of this. Does someone want to make is this for a resolution? It's a resolution. Okay. Motion?
I'm happy to move a resolution of the City Council declaring its intention to establish the Cotati Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District to finance the construction, repair, acquisition, and/or maintenance of capital improvements and facilities, including the acquisition and/or remediation of land for such improvements and facilities, establishing a public financing authority, and authorizing certain other actions related thereto.
Second?
Okay, we have a first and second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Can I ask a quick, do we need to do roll call when a member is virtual?
Thank you for catching that, yes.
Okay, so can we do a roll call?
Councilmember Savage,
Yes.
Councilmember Sparks,
Yes.
Councilmember Ford,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harvey,
Yes.
Mayor Lemus.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So that passes. So we're moving on to the next item, 9B, which is the Katati Employee Association Memorandum of Understanding. So that's the next item. Presentation?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So just real briefly, the MOU that's in the packet is shown in red line strikeout, so you can see the changes from the current MOU. So there's a little bit of cleanup, but in terms of the business points, we have what's proposed here is a 5-year agreement, a 2.5% cost of living allowance for years 1 through 3, 2% for years 4 through 5, with a salary reopener at the end of year 3. Select classifications, so senior planner, rec coordinator, management analyst, and senior management analyst receive an equity increase to bring them to the median of the market over the next 2 years. And then standby time for public works staff increased from $85 a day to $150 a day. It still is only applicable to weekends, so after hours on weekdays, we remain on the callback list rotation as it is today. The annual shoe reimbursement allowance for public works field staff and engineer are increasing from $250 a year to up to $350 a year. The belt allowance moved into the uniform provided by the city. The laundering allowance went away with a commitment to just include a wash machine at the courtyard so that they can do all their grimy clothes, not in their personal home laundry machines. And then there's also the ability of the Public Works field staff to request in advance for the cost of the commercial driver's license, subject to repayment to the city if they do not pass the exam. Addition of bilingual pay, Spanish for Spanish, $150 a month for proficient and $300 per month for advanced, subject to standardized testing process like we use for the police department, who also have the same provision. And then lastly, there's a potential 6-month pilot program at City Hall to expand open hours during the lunch, noon to 1. So this is subject to the departments coming up with a viable plan on how they would cover shifts. So it's unknown if this would actually happen, but it just opens the door for the conversation. And other than that, it's there's just minor cleanup language throughout the MOU. But I'll just end it there. I'm happy to answer any questions if the council has any.
Okay, thank you. Questions from City Council? Okay, now we'll go to public comment. We'll go online.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a comment on this item. Seeing no hands, that will end the Zoom portion.
Okay, is there anyone in the room who would like to make a public comment on this item, which is a Katati Employer Association MOU? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. Any additional comments? Yes.
I just want to thank the CEA and our employees who do great work with the city and the city manager for negotiating this agreement that I think treats both our employees and the city fairly.
Any other comments? Okay, go ahead.
I would move that we adopt a resolution approving the amended memorandum of understanding for the Katati Employees Association and authorizing the city manager to sign the MOU.
Second?
Okay, so I think John got the second. Okay.
Councilmember Savage,
Okay, we'll do a roll call.
Yes.
Councilmember Sparks,
Yes.
Councilmember Ford,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harvey,
Yes.
Mayor Lemus.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank everyone who worked on that. Okay, so now we're going back to number 5, which is citizen business and public comment for consent calendar items. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on any item listed on the consent calendar or any matter not listed on the agenda that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the council is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Pursuant to City Council Policy 2025-03, comments of any member of the public are normally restricted to a total of 3 minutes in length per person for matters not on the agenda, and a total of 3 minutes per person in length for any and all items on the consent calendar. The mayor may extend the time limit for a reasonable time where disability accommodation has been requested. To facilitate public comment, the timer indicator lights will display yellow when there are 30 seconds remaining and red when time has expired. So we'll start with citizen business and public comment, and we'll start with online.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. The first hand is from Lori. You have the floor.
Hi, Kevin. I'm first going to do my citizen business, and then I'll go straight into the consent calendar. Okay.
Understood.
Thank you. I'm speaking tonight as resident and stakeholder to address a dark, pervasive pattern of governance in the city of Cotati. This administration operates under an unwritten rule. If you dare to criticize the unanimous decisions of this council, we will face swift and severe personal consequences outside these chambers. You all council ratified this dark, pervasive pattern with renewing unanimously at the last council meeting the renewal of the city manager's contract. The city manager and city staff have systematically weaponized municipal enforcement mechanisms to silence dissent. My family learned the consequences firsthand last week after the Planning Commission and my speaking out. The timeline exposed the absolute bad faith of this administration. On June 8th, the bidding process closed for the city's new multi-jurisdictional request for proposals for code enforcement services. An RFP is specifically designed to bring objective, standardized, and unbiased oversight to our city standards. The RFP is a joint initiative covering the cities of Sonoma, Cotati, Cloverdale, and Windsor. But instead of waiting for that neutral triage system to take over, this administration rushed to a punitive enforcement action against my household just days later. You deliberately exploited your outdated, insular system one last time to carry out a personal vendetta. You towed my mother's car in front of her home while she was sleeping for expired tags. As certified medical necessity for a household with 2 wheelchair-dependent individuals, leaving disabled residents stranded without without transportation wasn't a policy oversight. It was a deliberate, weaponized strike timed perfectly to evade the incoming neutral standards of a new RFP. When we requested an accommodation at our home, you sent Police Lieutenant Paul Gooden to act as a biased defensive judge at a bedridden woman's bedside, extracting $1,000 for her under duress as a result. You did this because you knew an independent, outsized contractor under the new multi-jurisdictional system would never have authorized such a heartless, legally indefensible seizure. This is the definition of predatory, retaliatory government. Dissent is a constitutional right, not an invitation for municipal harassment. The toxic coupler is intimidation is why the city is facing a federal rights lawsuit in Barrick versus Cotati. Is why you're hiding potential litigation in your closed session item. I demand that this council investigate why staff rushed to bypass the intent of their own multiple jurisdiction RFP just to bully my disabled 89-year-old visually and hearing impaired and mostly bedridden mother, and I demand a restoration of basic sanity to Cotati. Thank you. Okay, give me a second before I go on consent calendar. Okay. I am speaking tonight to request that item 6B be pulled from the consent calendar for separate discussion and transparency. While infrastructure improvements on Redwood Drive are important, the community needs to understand the stark disproportion in how this funding is being utilized. This resolution authorized a cooperative funding agreement with the Sonoma County Transportation Climate Authority. However, as written, it directs the majority of the regional ADA grant monies toward a Class 4 bike lane demonstration project, leaving a mere $10,000 for the actual execution of Phase 1 of our city's ADA transportation plan. An ADA transportation plan is a critical and structural blueprint. ADA accessible in Cotati has been ignored for many years. And the ADA transition identifies physical barriers to accessibility in our public rights-of-way, sidewalks, and municipal facilities. Ensures that residents with disabilities, seniors, and parents with strollers can navigate Cotati safely. Allocating just $10,000 to this plan while absorbing the lion's share of accessibility targeted grant funds into a single bike lane project neglects our broader citywide compliance responsibility. By pulling this item from the consent calendar, the council can address two vital questions for the public record. Scope. Will $10,000 generally cover a comprehensive, compliant Phase 1 ADA transition plan, or is it a token amount that delays true systematic accessibility upgrades? 2, prioritization. Why is this demonstration bike lane prioritized over the immediate critical need for city sidewalk gap closures or curb ramp rectifications? I urge the council to pull item 6B, hold a transparent discussion, and ensure that grant monies intended for accessibility are meaningfully used to remove barriers for our most vulnerable residents. Thank you. That's it.
There are no further hands on Zoom. Mayor Lemus?
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the room that would like to make a public comment? Did I already ask? For citizen business and public comment for consent calendar items?
I would.
Okay, come forward, please. Thank you.
My name is Eric Parker. I just moved to Cotati recently. It's a beautiful city. I really enjoy it. And I also wanted to speak about the sidewalk situation. I live on the corner of, it starts with the V, I just moved here, I'm so sorry, I can't remember, and Myrtle, just right down the road. And there's a Veterans Park on Old Redwood Highway right there, and there's no sidewalk right there. And so my options are go in the bike lane, and I'm not a car, I shouldn't be in the bike lane, I'm a pedestrian. Or I can go over to Park Avenue and cut through and then try to go through the park. But if you do that, there's a sidewalk section that has like a 7-inch curb where I almost fell out of my wheelchair because it's not marked, and it's just like a huge just dip. And I couldn't get back around, so I had to have somebody come pick me up so I could get back home a block away. So the sidewalk infrastructure here is very lacking. And I'm from like Michigan, so we have winter and cold, and like we still have these sidewalks are taken care of, and that's really weird to me to come to a city and just have no proper infrastructure here for that. When looking up why that was the way, I saw that you guys have made a plan and know that these issues are here, because I think it was like number 57 on your project for your CTA thing. But there's no updates on that anywhere online that I can find beyond June 2025, and it doesn't list what projects you're on or anything like that. So I would just say some more transparency on where that project is or where those things are happening, and ways, I'm just trying to figure out how I can get better accessibility here with sidewalk access is what my goal was to come out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room would like to make public comment on citizen business and consent calendar items? Okay. Then we'll bring it back to council. Comments on the consent calendar, council? Should we maybe want to move to pull that one?
But I was wondering if staff could be sure to get the commenters' contact info and follow up on that, on the most recent issue.
Yeah, we'll get that. Yeah, thank you.
And I wanted to ask one follow-up question. Personally, I don't think it needs to be pulled. I just want to check to make sure that the two projects that are in the SCTCA contract were separately awarded. We're just folding them into one contract because they're from the same funding source, and like the dollar amounts awarded for each of those two projects were separately awarded.
Yeah, I mean, the Safe Routes for All grant. So the projects, there's a variety of projects that were proposed, and it's my understanding that those both qualified and fell under the Safe Routes for All sort of eligibility criteria, so they're bundled together in that fund source. That's why they're together in this co-op. And it's $100,000 for the ADA transition plan.
Okay.
I'm not sure where the 10,000 came from.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Anyone, motion?
Move to approve the consent calendar items, C through E.
Second.
Oh,
Or
I'm sorry,
E-
I'm
E-
sorry. Which ones are the ones we removed?
No, they
No,
were
we
from the
kept-
regular.
Oh,
agenda.
okay, never mind. I move to approve all of the consent calendar items. Sorry.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Savage,
Yes.
Councilmember Sparks,
Yes.
Councilmember Ford,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harvey,
Yes.
Mayor Lemus.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to direction on future agenda items. Does anyone have a future agenda item you wanted to add or discuss? Okay, Vice Mayor Harvey, did you have a hand up?
Yes, I'm sure that Damien is already aware of this, but I wanted to make sure that it was on his radar. There were changes to the JPA for the Santa Rosa groundwater that need to go back and be approved by each of the councils. And we would like to get that moving forward for our city.
Okay, okay, great. Okay, we got that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next item we have is public hearings, and the first one is a resolution to approve the engineer's report, confirm the assessment diagram and annual assessment amounts and levying and collection of the annual assessments for the Cotati Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District for fiscal year 2026-27.
I need to recuse myself, Mayor, because I live in one of the districts.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll wait for Councilmember Savage, and then we'll start the public hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask the attorney a question here? So I don't live in one of the districts, but I do live within 500 feet, as do many people in the city. Does that,
No, that's more of a land use matter when you're, because this isn't going to have any impact on your
thanks.
property.
Okay, thank you. So then we have a presentation on this one?
Mayor, members of the council, Craig Scott, Public Works Director, City Engineer. I'll be making the presentation, as I've done for the last 10 years. This is an annual proceeding. The city from 1989 to present day has formed 10 landscape and lighting assessment district zones under the Landscape and Lighting Assessment District Act of 1972. And it's to recover landscaping and lighting costs. The zones have both of those components. Some have just landscaping that are covered and some just lighting, but most of them are both the landscaping and lighting. And under the act, the city is required to prepare an engineer's report annually if it wants to collect those assessments. So that's why we're here today. And hold a public hearing with the end being to consider adopting a resolution to accept those assessments. And then those assessments would be applied for the following year. The next slide, please. This slide shows all of the 9 or the 10 zones, the maximum assessment, and the proposed fiscal year 26-27 assessment. And those assessments consider the expenses for the prior year and the projected expenses that the year that we're just about to complete come the end of this month. And that sets what the assessment will be the following year. And then the next slide, it shows the reserves, and the reserves are to help moderate the rate increases and to pay for capital projects over time. So most of the activities are routine maintenance, but once in a while, certain plants will need to be replaced or light fixtures replaced, playgrounds, so forth. And so these are sort of above and beyond what normal expenses would be, and a reserve would, serve that function. There are a couple of zones that have zero reserves, and those are subsidized by the city's general fund, but the other zones are healthy with positive reserves. And the following slide is the recommendation, which is to hold the public hearing, giving people any opportunity to protest the assessments, and then consider approving the resolution to levy the assessments. So I'd be happy to respond to any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from City Council? Okay, so we'll open the public hearing. And we'll start with online.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a comment on this item, please use the raise hand icon. Seeing no hands on Zoom.
Okay, and now in the room, is there anyone in the room that wanted to make a comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to City Council for comments or a motion. Okay, go ahead.
I move that we approve the engineer's report, confirm the assessment diagram and annual assessment amounts, and the levying and collection of the annual assessments for the Cotati Landscape and Lighting Assessment Districts for fiscal year 2026 to 2027.
Second.
Okay, can we do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Sparks,
Yes.
Councilmember Ford,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harvey,
Yes.
Mayor Lemus.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And now we'll wait for Councilmember Savage to return. Thank you. So next item we have is a public hearing to consider objections to the outstanding backflow testing charges and levying of assessments for fiscal year 2026-27.
I'll be taking this item as
Thank
well. This is also an annual process. The city is required to have backflow devices tested annually, and that those costs are placed on the customer. When customers do not pay, the city has the ability to levy assessments against that property to recover those costs. And this year we have a number of properties that have outstanding backflow testing charges, and the process here is similar, where the last council meeting, the council had the intent to levy these assessments. At this meeting with a public hearing, and so we're to hold a public hearing and then consider adoption of a resolution to levy those assessments. That's a very short presentation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from City Council? Okay, so we'll open up public hearing, and we'll start in the room. Anyone in the room would like to make a comment on this item? Then we'll go to online.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. There are no hands on Zoom. That will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for additional comments or a motion. Oh, there's no,
Yeah. Oh.
there is a resolution.
Yes, I move we adopt a resolution conducting a public hearing to receive all oral and written protests, the outstanding backflow testing charges, and levying of assessments for fiscal year 26-27.
Okay, we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Savage,
Yes.
Councilmember Sparks,
Yes.
Councilmember Ford,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harvey,
Yes.
Mayor Lemus.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And now we're moving on to 9C. We already did the first two on the regular agenda. And we have 9C is a joining coalition to support tort reform. Do we have a presentation on that? Thank you.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Mayor, Council. So this item is about tort reform, basically. Across, and specifically related to public entities. So there's been an ongoing trend that, we've seen certainly in our own sort of insurance premiums, but also we're certainly not alone. And the letter that's attached, we received from Cal Cities. So Cal Cities is part of a coalition of a variety of public agencies. So schools in particular have been seeing some pretty egregious changes in costs to insurance because of uncapped amounts of claims. And in cities, have also seen, giant increases in the amount of awards, which, if juries provide, giant awards, then it just gets funneled back into the cost of premiums, which costs more money. So the general sense among many public agencies, even CIRA, so we're part of the risk pool, CIRA, they had a strategic planning session, and it was pretty unanimous among all the cities, so 60-plus cities and special districts, that was one of the top priorities for CIRA and their strategic planning moving forward for the next 5 years. And it's, just here, we've seen insurance costs go from $100,000 a year to over $800,000 a year in less than 10 years, which is a large increase for a $11 million general fund. And as is cited in the staff report, CAJAPA, which is the California Association of Joint Powers Authorities, large claims over $1 million have nearly quadrupled since 2018, 2019, are projected again to triple by next fiscal year. And it's just unsustainable, and it results in essentially a giant diversion of public money into trial lawyers who primarily benefit from these giant awards. And really, I think what the letter's intending to do is try to provide some balance to the system again, because it's out of equilibrium. I don't think anyone's saying that people that are victims of egregious actions shouldn't be able to go to court and get some, award, but it's just completely out of balance in terms of the amount. And it's just basically, it's unsustainable, so something has to happen. And I won't continue on, but basically it's outlined in the letter what this coalition is currently asking the legislature to do. So to my knowledge, there hasn't been a legislator that's carried it in terms of legislation yet, but the coalition's forming to try to encourage legislators to get on board and hopefully advance some legislation, which I think is historically it's expected that the Bar Association would probably oppose it in some form, and they're very they have a very strong voice at the state legislature. So it's going to take a big coalition of not only the JPAs and the school districts that you see in this letter, but also I think cities individually. So that's why the recommendation to join on with Cal Cities and CIRA on this coalition to hopefully get some sort of tort reform at the state. I'd be happy to answer any questions if the council has any.
Okay, any questions?
Let me just make a quick point.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
He said He said the Bar Association would support it.
No, no.
Or
oppose it.
would oppose it, but I think he meant the Plaintiffs' Bar Association, so.
Good
I want to
clarification.
protect my profession from negativity.
Okay, questions? We'll start with Vice Mayor Harvey.
Not a question, but I would like to add to what Damian said at our last public safety meeting with Cal Cities. This was a topic of discussion, and it is not sustainable, and it is absolutely burying some cities. There were a couple of cities, in particular in Southern California, that are just having to reduce all of their services because of some of these just outrageous awards that are happening. So something has to happen because cities can't continue down this path. So just to let you know, it was discussed at Cal Cities.
Okay, thank you. City Council questions? Okay,
Just
Councilmember?
follow up on that question of which association of lawyers might oppose such reform. Is there a countervailing association of lawyers that might support such a change?
Honestly, I don't know that there's probably a defense bar, but I just don't think they're as powerful at the legislature as the plaintiffs' bar is. Those are all the people that, bring trial lawyers. I think it's the California Trial Lawyers Association that the insurance folks gripe about. I don't think there's a corresponding challenger from the defense bar, because the defense lawyers make money on litigation as well.
What about the public attorney's bar?
Yeah. No, I don't ever remember us supporting or opposing it, but, it's interesting that there aren't attorneys challenging the plaintiff's bar.
Okay.
I think, yeah, collectively with all these, public agencies as a result of all these large judgments are effectively funding the opposition to this. Yeah.
Any other questions? I have a quick question. Just, do you know, I saw a couple of local kind of municipality, schools. Have city managers, has this been shared with other local kind of jurisdictions, other people considering it?
Yeah, we've definitely talked about it at the city manager level.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so no other questions. We'll go to public comment, and we'll start with online.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon if you'd like to make a comment. The first hand is from Lori. You have the floor.
I'm speaking tonight regarding City Manager Damian Obed's agenda item on tort reform and signing a letter of support to Cal Cities. Let us be entirely honest about what this item actually is. It is not a policy discussion or supporting Cal City. It wasn't on the tentative agenda. It is defensive, bad faith public relations stunt designed to shield the administration from the consequences of its own unlawful actions. Look at the timing. Last month, the city was hit with a major federal civil rights lawsuit alleging that Mr. Obed had weaponized code enforcement to retaliate against local critics. Just last week, this administration escalated its predatory tactics by towing a medically necessary vehicle from a vulnerable household with 2 wheelchair-dependent individuals, my 89-year-old mother being one of them, violating the federal community caretaking doctrine. When my family requested an accommodation for an impound hearing to be by her bedside, they sent a biased police lieutenant to act as a judge, created a rigged, unconstitutional conflict of interest that forced a bedridden woman to pay over $1,000 under duress. Now, suddenly, tort reform is on the open agenda, while civil rights violations are hidden away in tonight's closed session. This is a transparent attempt by the city manager to frame legitimate constitutional lawsuits as frivolous to protect his own job and budget. Tort reform does not fix a culture of municipal misconduct. If the city wants to stop getting sued, the solution is simple. Stop violating the civil rights of your residents. Stop running kangaroo court administrative hearings that violate the 14th Amendment. Stop seizing emergency vehicles from disabled people in violation of the 4th Amendment and the AADA. And stop using subordinate staff to issue blank records denials to hide body camera footage from the public. I urge this council to reject this term removed by City Manager Obid. Do not support it. Hold your administration accountable and enforce compliance with federal law, and I should say state law, and stop using taxpayers' funds to defend the indefensible. Thank you.
There are no further hands on Zoom.
Okay, anyone in the room who would like to make a public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for any comments or recommendation. Okay, go ahead.
I would move that we authorize the city to join Cal Cities, Sierra, and a coalition of California public agencies advocating for tort reform legislation aimed at reducing and escalating the public agency liability costs and preserving taxpayer resources for essential public services and infrastructure.
Second.
Okay, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Savage?
Aye.
Councilmember Sparks?
Yes.
Councilmember Ford?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harvey?
Yes.
Mayor Lemus?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item we have is financial policies update, and I believe we have a presentation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the public. Tonight's item is requesting Council's consideration and adoption of the updated financial principles and policies, which include the incorporation of our new cybersecurity and data protection policy, as well as updates to the discontinuation of residential water service for non-payment policy, which was previously not included within the full fiscal policies. Next slide. So the purpose of the financial policies is that they provide the foundation for how the city manages its financial resources. They establish expectations, provide guidance to staff, and create consistency in decision-making across city operations. These policies help support long-term fiscal sustainability and transparency and effective service delivery to the community. They also provide a framework for responding to changing economic conditions while maintaining appropriate internal controls and responsible financial practices. Next slide. So staff conducted a comprehensive review of our city's financial principles and policies. We try to do this on an annual basis along with our budget process. Even though now our budget process is on a biannual basis, we felt like this was still something we wanted to continue to update on the annual basis. As a part of the review, we again incorporated the new policy around cybersecurity, which was previously presented to council and we'll go into a little bit later. And then we also wanted to make sure we were incorporating that water service discontinuation policy. So those are the big changes for this one. Next slide. So of the key areas reviewed for the city was the city's expenditure and purchasing policy, as it can be seen in agenda packet pages 329 to 331. The proposed changes update the purchasing authority limits for employees and department heads. The employee purchasing limit is recommended to increase to from $1,000 to $2,000, and for department head purchasing limits to increase from $5,000 to $8,000. These limits have remained unchanged for many, many years, while the cost of goods and services and travel-related expenses have continued to increase. So the intent of this update is not to reduce oversight, but rather to ensure efficient purchasing processes that remain efficient and practical while still maintaining appropriate controls. There is a fix on page 331, which is pointed out to me, that we were revising the purchasing levels for the different categories, where staff updated the purchasing categories to better align with current costs by defining minor purchases from other than minor purchases and major purchases. And so that should be revised. Instead of the 50,000 should still remain that 25,000. So these are the items that are strikeout 3 and 4. They should not have been stricken out. They should have still remained to be 25,000, which is consistent with our city code. And I can go over that a little bit further if we want to go to the specific page. So it's packet page 331. Okay. Next slide. We had some very minor updates in our capital assets and grants sections. The capital assets are on packet page 362. We updated to incorporate new additional best practices recommendations from the GFOA, including establishing appropriate capitalization thresholds and reviewing those thresholds to make sure they're still appropriate. Again, as the cost of goods and services continue to increase, the equipment increases. So what is really an appropriate threshold for those capitalizations and tracking mechanisms for the city? These again these practices help ensure that we focus on the accounting efforts of assets that are really significant and tracing and tracking them. We have other tools within the policy where we track minor assets that are not necessarily capitalizable. The grant management updates were primarily to remove the organization within and to make it more readably easy to follow, where we're moving the pass-through grant requirements up to a higher section. So it's better understood what our responsibilities are for grant managers for pass-through grants. And so it's not structurally changing anything, it's just moving it to a higher section. Excuse me. Next slide. The next section was the investment policy. We reviewed, that's on packet pages 395, are the major changes. Again, there is updates that are provided at the council where we have clarifying language related to time deposits and placement service deposits. So this is something where the state had expired and they extended the term to 2031. So we just want to correct the language so we're in alignment with the state regulations around time deposits. And again, that's just allowing us to have a larger percentage of our balance, 50% of that available in the time deposits. Additionally, it was recommended that we add 2 investment options that were already within the state law but had not been incorporated within our investment policy as still assets that were still risk adverse. They were going to be secure, however, they might lend to some different options for us to be able to invest going forward. So they might have a smaller return currently versus others, while they still hold the same risk profile as like a CD or something else that we would invest in. And again, those 2 are the medium-term corporate bonds and municipal bonds. Next slide. Next, January, the council reviewed the draft cybersecurity and data protection policy. Following discussion, staff worked to incorporate it into these financial principle policies for adoption at this time. Cybersecurity really is an increasingly connected aspect to financial operations because protecting the city's systems, information, and data is essential to maintaining reliable services and financial reporting. The city provides guidance related to technology use and data protection, and we want to make sure we're implementing this policy in a responsible manner that also considers emerging technologies and AI. So we've made sure that's included within it, as well as training provided around use of those tools. We did also eliminate some of them that were some items that were presented to council because it was putting too much emphasis on minor duties and things that really a policy shouldn't direct because it's a part of our personnel rules, which again will be coming back to council at a future date. This update helps formalize the city's approach to protecting information and maintaining technology-regulated risks. Next slide. Staff also brought in our discontinuation of rental or residential water service for non-payment policies. This is a part of the SB 998. We originally adopted back in 2020, and of course, as you have a policy for the first time, you find out that some of the language in it doesn't quite read the way you intended it to. And so we wanted to make sure we cleaned up some of the language so that it's usable for all of our residents who need assistance for payment plans or for waiving of their penalties. So because we do make sure that they are aware of this policy before we enter into any of those agreements with them. So we need to make sure that it's clear and transparent, as well as now we have a systems software that allows us to more easily translate it into all of the required languages, because the state does require that we translate it into 5 additional languages beyond just the English and Spanish. So now having this software within the system, it automatically translates through Google Translate in order to provide as many different languages as possible for any of our residents to be able to get the services they need or assistance they need to avoid discontinuation of their water service. Next slide. So overall, these updates strengthen the city's financial and operational framework. The revised policies align with our current best practices and improve accessibility, reflect changes in state law, and address the city's current operational environment. The financial policies are intended to, again, to be a living document. The staff will continue to review them periodically and ensure that they remain effective and relevant for day-to-day use. Next slide. So with that, I would move that we adopt the resolution with the amendments for the page 331 in the packet to not have the 50,000, but continue to keep it at the $25,000 limit for those item 3 and 4 that were stricken there. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Any questions from City Council? Okay, we'll go to public comment, and we'll start with online.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise hand icon. There are no hands on Zoom.
Okay, in the room, is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for comments or a resolution, a motion.
I move that we adopt a resolution adopting updated consolidated City of Cotati financial policies.
Second?
Thank you. Can we do a roll call, Kevin?
Councilmember Savage?
Yes.
Councilmember Sparks?
Yes.
Councilmember Ford?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harvey?
Yes.
Mayor Lemus?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Angela, and your staff for keeping us in good financial shape. And now if you want to please join us for the land acknowledgement, please stand. The City of Cotati recognizes that we're on the ancestral lands of the coastal Miwok, who are the original caretakers of this area. We respectfully acknowledge the indigenous peoples who have been stewarding and maintaining a relationship on this land as knowledge keepers for millennia. This acknowledgement does not take the place of authentic relationships with indigenous communities, but serves as a gesture of respect to the land that we are on. And now please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
That's like trying to sing happy birthday over Zoom.
I know, thank you. Okay, the next item we have is City Manager's Report and Council member reports.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So, as you probably have seen, if you've been out on East Cotati, the paving work is in full swing with much of the patching, crack sealing completed, and slurry sealing is happening on East Cotati right now. So I think they were going to try to finish today with the slurry sealing part of it. They still have the crosswalk impressions at Santero and also at William and George. So right now they're patched with black asphalt, and if you're wondering, There'll be red hatch crosswalks when they're done. And we expect all that to occur over the next couple weeks. So, then striping, of course, too, all the striping for the roads. The Class 1 pathway, if this is out in the Laguna between Mid-Terry Circle and Gravenstein Way. So that, it was temporarily on hold because apparently there was a shortage of steel bender board, which is the path edge. I have no idea why that was a shortage. But anyway, there was a shortage that delayed it by like a week and a half or so. And so they should be back out there this week and then finish it up. So I expect that to be getting done soon. And then at last time I announced that they're going to be refurbishing the signal at Old Red at the signal at Old Red at Myrtle in Valparaiso. But the contractor had to get a color chip, and it's kind of postponed it a little bit. But as soon as they get a color chip to match the paint, they'll be out there. So I don't know if we have an update, but it'll be in the near future that they'll be out there. So it'll be this summer for sure. As you heard earlier tonight during the proclamation, this is for our summer camps. We've had between the city summer camp and the farm camp across the street, we've had over 100 participants. So it's been great for all 3 weeks of our summer camps. And a highlight at Camp Cotati last week was that we took our very first bus trip to Benicia Pool in Rohnert Park. So all the kids went out there, and it was a big hit with the campers and the staff. And I think they went to the police department today. Yeah. And they toured the department. And so anyway, we're looking forward to getting out and about more as the summer goes on. And part of that, even though I didn't mention it, but I've said it before, there's also the free summer lunch program that's offered there as well. So our campers partake in that, but also it's not just restricted to campers. Anyone 18 and under can come and get free lunch during that. With our partnership with Redwood Empire Food Bank. This Saturday is our weekly grown flower sale at Veranda Floody Ranch between 10 a.m. and noon. So anyone can stop by and see the flower garden, enjoy some herbal tea. And then coming up in July 11th specifically, will be our 33rd annual Kids Day Parade and Festival downtown. Starts here at City Hall. The parade starts at City Hall and ends in the park. And then the festival in the park is basically from like noon to 3. The parade starts at 11. Or I'm sorry, the parade starts at 10. Jeez, I'm giving misinformation. So the parade starts at 10. The festival downtown is 11 to 3. And we have lots of local vendors, food and refreshments, games, resources, and live entertainment. And the theme this year is Cotati Kids Dig Into Fun. So you can imagine it's kind of construction themed. So there'll be a lot of construction equipment, I think, and that type of thing. So we encourage costumes, and all are welcome to join in the parade. Just show up at City Hall at 9 a.m. and get in the lineup. And all this and more can be found on the city webpage. But before I conclude, just a reminder that our next regularly scheduled city council meeting was canceled, so the first meeting in July. So the next city council meeting after tonight will be July 28th. So this, the normally scheduled second meeting in July. We'll all be back here. And that's it, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if the council has any.
Great, thank you. Any questions for our city manager? Okay, then we'll go over to the city council member reports. Go ahead.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you.
No meetings, nothing to report.
Okay.
The Sonoma County legislative meeting was canceled since it was on Juneteenth, so I don't have anything to report either.
Okay, great. Anything from Vice Mayor Harvey?
Just a couple of quick items. On 6/10, I attended the mosquito and vector control district meeting. And then on the 11th, I attended the Santa Rosa Plain GSA and also the mayors and council members meeting where we had a discussion on Measure O. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And I had, June 11th, the Pride Flag raising here at Cotati City Hall with Councilmember Savage. On the same day in the evening, mayors and council members in Petaluma, the meeting included a PG&E presentation to the mayors. Also, Nolan Sullivan, the Director of Health Services, presented on Measure O. A factor that was stressed is that while county programs service the unincorporated, the bulk of the behavioral health clients are in the incorporated cities, with the majority of adults and children served in Santa Rosa. Measure O, revenues and expenditures, and overview of the various programs that they support were provided. I think that they're going to do a little roadshow, but they did provide like a little handout and the report. On June 17th, Senator Adam Schiff's staff came for a meeting. So the city manager and myself discussed some current issues, including HR 1 cuts, mobile support teams, green infrastructure, ICE immigration, Committee on Agriculture and Nutrition that Senator Schiff is on. And we also learned about congressionally directed spending grant applications and when they open, so that maybe possibly we can apply for some. We discussed AI regulation and impacts and water issues. So we now have communication with our office so we can continue a dialogue with them. On June 18th, I went to the Association of Bay Area Government, ABAG. Libby Schaff, prior mayor of Oakland, presented to ABAG. She's currently the ED of Bay Area Council, and her message was on regionalization, which I thought was timely because it seems like a lot of our groups talk about regionalization. Rohnert Park Councilmember Susan Adams was nominated, and the delegates voted to ratify her election to president of ABAG. And the Solano Supervisor Wanda Williams was approved to be the vice president. Outgoing President Napa Supervisor Belia Ramos gave a proclamation recognizing Fred Castro, the clerk of the board of ABAG, for his 20 years of service to ABAG. We approved the budget, 26-27 ABAG operating budget and work program, which includes a 3% increase to ABAG dues for all the cities and jurisdictions. Most interesting from that was the regional housing needs allocation cycle. We had a cycle 7 preview of RENA, and the early preview includes phases, timeline, and notable changes prior to the kickoff in early 2027. One of the changes is they'll be giving us 3 years to review. Before it was 2 years, now we'll have 3 years to review it. They may be doing a roadshow and present to mayors and council members. One thing interesting with subregions, which it could be something we're interested in working with the county and other cities, where we can work on RENA numbers together. And now with Susan Adams as a president, there's a good opportunity for us to join the Regional Housing Needs Determination Committee. So they're the ones that determine the numbers for all the jurisdictions. So that's something that we can maybe serve on, where we can kind of work on what's mandated and what's optional in the criteria for the RENA numbers. So that's something that we can look forward to. So that's my report that I have. And I did email information to city manager that they can share with everybody on what we discussed at the meeting. So that's all we have for today for city manager and city council. And now we're going to closed session. So we have closed session. We'll be discussing a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, California Government Code Section 54956.9D1. Name of the case, George Barrage versus City of Cotati, Damien Obid, and Does 1 to 10 inclusive, case number 326CV4944. And also we'll be discussing conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9D2, one case. So we'll be back after closed session. And first of all, let's go to public comment, and we'll go to online first.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon if you'd like to make a public comment. The first hand is from Lori. You have the floor.
Hi. Just a sec. My thing fell down. I wanted to make sure that Damien Obid does not attend this closed session on Barrick versus City of Cotati, as he is the individual named, and he's the only one that is named in the lawsuit. Again, the City of Cotati, and then it's individual with Damien Obid. So I don't know the law on how that works, but I don't think he should be involved because he's personally liable. Thank you.
There are no further hands on Zoom.
Okay. Anyone in the room that would like to make a comment on closed session? Okay, seeing none, we'll go. Yes, did you want to?
I'm just curious if the city attorney could provide some clarity on that.
Sure. Yeah, Mr. Obid has been named as the city manager and not his personal capacities. In any event, he was working within the course and scope of his duties as the city manager, and the city owes him a duty of defense. He is your city manager and advises you on policy matters, so I don't see any problem with him being present.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to close session and we'll return after. Thank you. Okay, we have returned from closed session, and there's nothing to report. The next item we have is information received after the agenda was posted. Do we have agenda?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Lemus. There were several public comments received. Those have all been attached to the HTML agenda and are available here in print in the chamber tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So with that, we adjourn the meeting at 9:38 p.m. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Susan.
Good night.
Bye.